Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video. So, today's video I am going to be talking about something that I get asked quite a lot, and it is about tier lists, rankings, where I rank certain units and stuff like that. You may have noticed actually that I don't tend to do the typical YouTuber thing when doing gacha titles of putting out tier lists. There's a reason for that, and I'm going to get into that in this video, right? Not knocking anyone that puts out tier lists, they're just not my thing, right? And I'll explain why they're not my thing, right? So, obviously if you look at my box, I could quite easily, on a one-by-one basis, from my own experience, make a tier list based on what I think of each and every single character in this game at decent levels. I can also do it based on them having their cars and stuff like that, you know? But there's a reason I don't do this. And this doesn't just apply to Street Fighter Duel, this kind of applies to every gacha game in existence, basically. And this is something that some of you who maybe know me from my days doing Disgaea might know, but those of you who are new probably don't know. I despise tier lists. I'll explain why I despise tier lists. I've found in the past, communities, gamers, anyone can be so hyper fixated on tier lists that they overlook the benefits of a lot of units, and their only concern is what rank is this unit? Oh, that's an S tier unit. Right, okay, that means they're good, I want to get that unit. Okay, but sometimes there's nuance to that, where yes, that unit's S tier, but you need X, Y, and Z to really make that unit shine. Whereas a unit who's maybe possibly A tier, if you've got some other things going for you, that unit can actually pop off. But you can actually see communities sometimes that are like, oh, why are you doing that? Because that unit's only A tier, as though A tier is a bad thing, you know? And I've never liked them because it can really just essentially guide people's gameplay experience a bit too much. Now, I mean, I get the benefit in them. I get that sometimes people like to just nice and easily see a page where, oh great, these units are good, these units are bad. But what tends to happen there is it stops people experimenting, it stops people trying units for themselves, it stops people like making their own decisions, because everything they do within said game ends up revolving around a tier list and trying to get a team full of S units or SS units, whatever the tier list tends to use. I don't know, people use A to D, people use SS, and as time passes what ends up happening is people don't want to move a unit down a tier, so they create a new tier just for power creep units and stuff like that, and in my opinion it just becomes a whole mess. And the thing about tier lists, and this is the main reason why I don't do them, is because units aren't always as easy to fit in a box like that. You know, you get units, for example, Chun-Li, right there. Chun-Li, you can see her sitting there on this screen. When she came out, a lot of people were like, she's not that good. She's not that good. She's great. She's absolutely fantastic. But you need to use her in the right place. And when it comes to bosses and stuff like that, and ways that you can get her really leveling up her stacks of flame penetration before the rest of your team attacks, she's going to make your scores absolutely go crazy, right? Absolutely go crazy. But in that one real scenario is where she really shines, right? But she shines so well. Where would you rank her on a tier list? Another example of this would be Beast Zangief, right? If you want to actually look at the game and be very objective, you could probably argue that Beast Zangief is the best unit in this game. Let me explain why. Because he is the only real unit that you can reliably use to advance you through content based on him and him alone. Sure, you need people behind him to hit, right? But if it wasn't for Beast Zangief stopping those people hitting you, you wouldn't be progressing the way that you are, right? But that is his one thing. But his one thing is so damn good. Where would you put him on a tier list, right? You could have other units that can murder stages, like absolutely murder them, right? They can murder bosses. But if it's not for Beast Zangief stopping those other units hitting you, those units behind them aren't going to do as well. But he's got one string to his bow. So why would you put him in S tier, for example? And then someone like Chun-Li, who doesn't necessarily work that great in stages and stuff, she's really for bosses. You could argue she's got one real strong string to her bow, but you probably wouldn't put her on the same tier as Beast Zangief. So you see where I'm going with this, right? It can become messy, and you end up with people who make tier lists where you've maybe seen them. They'll have a list, and then they'll have a table here, a table here, a table here, and it's like they've got 3 tables: PvP, PvE, freaking bosses, and then a unit will be like S for this, A for this, D for this, overall grade. You know, it just gets really messy, and I do not like tier lists for that reason. I actually, believe it or not, although it might seem like I'm a bit of a slave to meta, I don't even like meta in games, because it just means that everyone ends up running the same teams. And you usually sometimes find that there's some very clever, enterprising people out there who find new ways. Like Dom, he was showing me a video of someone who uses basic poison, a unit who most people really overlook. And he's pushed so far through content using units that no one else even considers. You know, people would actually rank this unit low on a tier list, but there's players out there who can actually push the limits of what you can do within the game. So does that mean that really that unit deserves to be higher on a tier list? It's just that people aren't very good? Or is it just this person's special, you know? There's other examples of this. There's people like Clive, who, he's a content creator in case you don't know, who like to try and find units who most people would consider mid, who most people would consider trash, and show that, you know what, look, they're not. You can do this, you can do that, you can do this. So this is the reason why ultimately I do not like tier lists, and why, other than probably the one tier list I've put on this channel, which is the one for the assists, which was different because I wanted to just basically make a video to highlight the fact that assists were important at that time, because no one was talking about it, right? And I thought, well, this is the best way to do it. I can make this tier list, I can talk about the units. And to be honest, I would need to redo it anyway, because it was shite, right? It's far better now. But the thing is, I just don't like tier lists, and it's why you probably won't see them popping up on my channel. I mean, at times I'll say to you, I rate this unit, I don't rate that unit, but would I put them on a tier list? Probably no, because if I say I think a unit's trash, it doesn't mean they necessarily are trash. It just means I find them trash. You might find them great. And this is why I don't like to necessarily put my opinion out there as, you know what, you should listen to what I've got to say, and what I've got to say should affect how you think about the game. The other reason why I don't do it, and this is probably the most important one for me, right? And it's also why, even back when I was doing the Skya RPG, I actually addressed this back then, and I said to everyone it was going to be the case. I do not like calling units must have or must summon, right? I don't like to do it, because I personally feel like I'm then putting pressure on you as viewers, where you feel like to yourself, I've got to summon for this unit, you know? That to me is me then encouraging you to potentially go into debt, whatever it takes to try and get a unit. So even if a unit is like the best unit in the game, I will say the best unit in the game, because that's objectively true at times, but I would never actually say this is the first must summon unit or must have unit or whatever, because that really feeds into FOMO, and it makes people feel like, you know what, if I don't get this, I'm behind, my box is trash, and it puts pressure on you as players, where you feel like, you know, I've got to do this. And ultimately, the one thing that you will find with Street Fighter, more so than a lot of other games, is there isn't really anyone who will particularly help you push, right? Other than Beast Zangief, there isn't really necessarily anyone who will help you push. Like, if you pull the new unit that's coming out in 2 weeks' time, they could be the most busted unit in the world. And I've said this before, they probably won't help you push on far in whatever stage you're stuck in. Sure, they might make you score a bit more on a boss, or they might make you beat a team that you've struggled with in PvP, but ultimately, they're not going to push you on that far, right? Because in this game, there is so many different options that will help you progress, that will help you do well, that because the game is so greedy, I just do not want to feed into you feeling pressured as a player to have to go and summon, because ultimately it's not going to change your gameplay experience much. If you've got a team full of units who I told you were A units and you could beat every bit of content with them, then why are they not S units, you know? And ultimately, if we were being completely fair, and if I was going to do a tier list where I was grading units based on the best in the game, the top level of units are all going to be expensive, hard to get units. There'll be a smattering of units in there who aren't, but you're going to see units up there like your Akumas, your Evil Ryus, your Monster Hunter Kens, and then you start to see people saying, oh, this is just a whale tier list. So what's the point, you know? What's the point? What's the point in making people realise you don't have the things that I consider the best or someone else considers the best? So this is the reason why, honestly, I find tier lists to be trash. That's it. It's not anything against anyone who makes tier lists, because they are something that communities look for, and it is literally just providing people with something that they want. But you won't really get them from me, and I don't really too much like passing judgment when people say to me, should I invest in this unit? Should I invest in that unit? Because honestly, when I read those questions, what I think to myself, honestly, is it's up to you. You know what I mean? Genuinely, that is what I think. It's up to you. Do you think this unit will help you? Then yes, you should invest. Do you see any reason looking at this unit's kit that they won't help you? Then don't invest. That is what I kind of would like to encourage as a content creator. My goal isn't to tell you guys how to play the game, tell you what units to use, tell you what tactics to use, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a game. You should play it, you should experiment, you should try new things, because there isn't an energy system. You can try things as much as you want, and by experimenting and by trying things, you'll find new techniques and styles that work for you, and you might inch out a few more levels on a stage that, if you were simply listening to something I said, wouldn't work for you, you know? Because you might not have 6 cars, you might not have fighting spirit level 30, there's all these caveats that you might not have that will change my experience to you, and you're just going to look at things and go, wait, Hayzink said this unit was amazing, this unit's trash. It's because not all things are created equally, you know? But anyway, I like doing these videos, you know? I like just talking, I like just getting things off my mind, speaking, sharing my thoughts and feelings with you as communities. You might love tier lists, and if you do, flame me. You're entitled to flame me, I don't care. But I hate them. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. There's always going to be a tier list, and I'm always going to disagree with things that are on it. People are always going to disagree about placement, because your favourite unit, I've told you it's an A unit, so you think you need to go and defend that unit, because if I don't say that unit's an S tier unit, you've wasted your time, you've wasted your investment. It's not how it works. So I'd rather not do them, and I'd rather not just flat out pass judgment on units. At most, I'll look at units, I'll look at their kits and say, are they worth summoning for? If you're someone who's in the market to summon, yeah, I think so. If you're not, then no, just save your summoning currency. That's it. Don't want to put pressure on you guys. I'd rather you played the game at your own pace. If you're a spender, spend what you want to spend. If you're free to play, don't spend. Just do what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy. Do what makes you enjoy the game. What makes you keep logging in, keep playing. Because I just feel like sometimes if you get a little bit too swept up in meta and other people's opinions, it can start to sour your experience, you know? And that is something that I don't want to encourage. So this is the reason why going forward, you probably won't see Hayzink tier lists. At most, I might do another at some point, who are my favourite 10 units in the game. But the thing about that is, they're my favourite 10 units. That list cannot be wrong because it's what I like the best, you know? Anyway, that is it. That's me. Done my talking. Maybe I'll make another video today. I don't know. Really don't know. There's been some things happening actually that we could talk about, but, you know, it doesn't really have anything to do with me. Bugged units, not bugged units, fixing units and no fixing units. I don't know. Supposedly Evil Ryu's bugged. That's something. Don't know if I should talk about that though, because like Pika discovered it. Check Pika's channel, see about that. If he is bugged, I want a refund. Anyway, I've been Hayzink. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.